concern for the suffering of the people in the region, but also an earnest of our commitment to work to the maximum extent to the betterment of the conditions of the people who live in that region and to the restoration of normality as soon as possible. The country that I have visited in the course, fifth and last, in the course of this, the first visit of an Irish foreign minister to this part of Africa. I would hope in the first instance, after the talks I had with the Vice President and Minister for Foreign Affairs, that very soon we will be able to pursue further the question of establishing diplomatic relations between our two countries. I know that the interest and willingness on both sides is quite clear, and I see every likelihood that fairly soon we will be able to formally establish the diplomatic relations between our two countries, which will enable us, obviously, to have even closer political consultation and also, of course, more meaningful economic cooperation. On the political question, obviously, above all else, the second purpose of my visit was to learn at first hand, here, if one might say, at the crossroads of Africa, the position in relation to the developments on this continent as seen by your President and your government. We're very conscious that the role which President Eire and the Sudanese government are playing in reconciliation in Africa is of very considerable importance. If I may say, it's on a very secure basis and sound footing in Zimbabwe, and the principles on which we believe that problem should be solved. Again, I wouldn't presume to say that a small country, even if it had what seemed to be the ideal solution, should presume to even begin to impose that solution or suggest that solution to those most immediately involved. I can say, as I reiterated to the Vice President, that we will continue to consistently support the moves towards the majority rule in Zimbabwe based on the fundamental right of every nation to the determination of its own future and the dignity of its own people as expressed through the majority will. That means that we will continue to consistently respect the sanctions against the Smith regime in Rhodesia. I can only speak for my own country. I think I can say that at no stage have we been other than totally and utterly consistent in our imposition of sanctions against Rhodesia. That will remain our position, and I reiterated that to the Prime Minister, or to the Vice President and Foreign Minister. Also in relation to South Africa, and I had the occasion to visit small countries that are economically dependent on South Africa in a sense, Lesotho and Swaziland. I might say that our aid programs in these countries are to try to help to give them some degree of economic independence, or some that will in some way help to lessen their dependence on the racialist regime in South Africa. I want to say again that we totally and utterly condemn the racialist regime in South Africa. We particularly repudiate any suggestion from that regime that represents the values of Western democracy that we respect. If they present themselves in this continent as the guardians of democracy, well then in fact they are being even more effectively the enemies of everything that we hold dear. And we cannot and will not allow our belief in the fundamental dignity and freedom of people to be compromised by a system based on privilege as to one's birth, which is something that we have known in our time in our own country. And for that reason, I think I was able to again convey to your Vice President that the views which I know this government here hold, and which are the views strongly held by the Organisation of African Unity, satisfying, worthwhile experience for me as Minister of my own country, as Minister of the European Economic Community, and simply as a colleague in the overall community of foreign ministers who must have a responsibility to each other to try to bring about a degree of understanding and dignity. Thank you very much. I just I have to apologise for the fact that I overlooked the very important area of the Middle East in giving you a summary of the discussions that we had. And obviously I can't explain why I did, but I suppose when I was concentrating on Africa, I did tend to, just for the moment, forget the Middle East. We did, of course, discuss the Middle East in great length with your Vice President. Now, here again, let me say that the position of my country is set out fairly clearly in relation to the statement made by the 9, of which we are a member, on the 29th, 30th of June of last year. Those principles, I believe, still hold firm, and if I might just refer to them, the basis of, we believe, any just and lasting settlement in the Middle East is, first of all, the inadmissibility of the acquisition of territory by force. Number 2, the need for Israel to end the territorial occupation which it has maintained since the conflict of 1967. Number 3, respect for the sovereignty, territorial integrity and independence of every state in the area, and the right to live in peace within secure and recognised boundaries. And number 4, recognition that in the establishment of a just and lasting peace, account must be taken of the legitimate rights